Welcome to the NAC-MAG tutorial on using heat and bond fabric adhesive. We have an iron and some fabric and scissors, and then we're going to show you how to use both the different types of heat and bond. We'll show you the ultra hold, which is for bonding fabric that you don't intend to stitch on top of, and we're also going to show you the light heat and bond, which is the best for when you plan to top stitch over the fabric that you are adhering together. And the light sewable bond is the kind that we're going to show you first. Okay, so we've got a square of red fabric that's going to act as our base, and then we're going to cut out a smaller square of this brown fabric from which we will cut the shape that we're going to adhere to the red fabric base. So first what you need to do is cut a square of the heat and bond that is slightly smaller than the square of the fabric out of which you will be cutting your shape. And when you trim the square of the heat and bond, make sure that you're not using your fabric scissors because there's a rough paper backing on the heat and bond that can ruin your fabric scissors. Okay, and now the little square that you just cut out of your heat and bond has actually two sides to it. There's a rough side, and then on the back there's a smooth, shiny side, the paper backing. You need to make sure that the rough side goes against the wrong side of your fabric, and then you just iron it down. It's best to not rub the iron too much, but to press and hold to keep the adhesion firm. Okay, and now when it feels like you've got a firm bond, you can let your fabric cool just a little bit, and then you can either trace or freehand draw a shape onto the back of your square of fabric. Just remember, if you're doing something that has a direction, like a letter that needs to be facing the right way, you draw it backwards on the paper so that on the front of the fabric it appears to be going in the right direction. And now you can see we have our cute little heart traced on the back, and so we're just going to cut that out. Okay, and now the next step is to adhere the heart to the base with this light heat and bond. And so the first thing we need to do is peel the paper backing away from the heart shape. So you find a little corner, and then once you start to get it peeled away, you'll notice that it now has a shiny back. And that's good, that's your heat and bond. So place the heart onto the base wherever you want to adhere it, and then press it down, just like we did when we were adhering the heat and bond itself to the fabric square. And since we've used a light sewable bond, we're going to go ahead and top stitch around the edge of this heart to make it permanent. Okay, and now you can see we've got the top stitching done and it looks really cute. And the greatest thing about this is that anytime you do applique, you can do the top stitching any way you want to. It can go off a little bit, it can be double stitched, anything that you want to do to give it a special homemade look. So for smaller details that you don't want to top stitch around, or any detail that you don't want to top stitch around, you can use the Ultra Hold heat and bond. So that's what we're going to do right now, is we're going to cut out of another smaller piece of fabric a small scrap of the Ultra Hold No Sew heat and bond. And again, with the rough side of the heat and bond to the wrong side of your fabric, go ahead and press that down. And just a reminder that with this Ultra Hold bond, you are not going to want to sew on top of this because this will gum up your sewing machine. So when you've got it pressed and you let it cool a little bit, go ahead and trace your pattern onto the back of this one. Okay, so we've got our smaller heart traced onto this, and we're going to cut that out. Again, using our non-fabric scissors so that we're not ruining our good scissors on this Ultra Hold heat and bond. And then you just peel the fabric away from the paper backing like we did before, and place that shiny side down onto the spot where you want to adhere the smaller shape, and then press and hold just like we did before. It's important to remember not to move the iron around too much while you're doing this because you don't want to separate the fabric from the heat and bond. And then once that has been pressed and cooled, you now have a good secure bond between your heavy heat and bond, your light heat and bond, and your fabric base. And one last little tip we'd like to give is that these extra pieces that already have heat and bond on them can be slipped into little Ziploc bags labeled heavy bond, heat and bond, or light heat and bond. And then later on when you're doing other projects, if there's a little scrap that you need, you can just clip it out of one of these. So thanks for watching our NAC Mag tutorial on heat and bond.